Hey, fantasy football fans. Welcome to the Rockin Renegades Fantasy Football Talk of the Week. We are a day away from the start of the football season, and I'm geeked and excited. Had our drafts. We're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about who to start, who to sit that you can play in your lineups this week. This week actually is brought to you by our sponsor will be, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to let our co-host John tell you who our sponsor is going to be. Welcome,
Hey,
our
Ralph.
gridiron guru, John. Tell us, John. Come on, what we got?
First, I want to say welcome to week one, and then I'm proud to be sponsoring the Rockin Renegades show here on Sports Bible with Fast Lane Coffee. Now, this is as Ralph knows, the musician's coffee. We have a full line of guitar-influenced coffee, some great brands, some great flavors. You got cocoa, you got praline, you got hazelnut, a lot of chocolate. There's one with Baker's Chocolate, which is Thomas Carlson's Transmission. If you guys know that band, it's part of RFL, and it's called Chock Full of Transmission. So we got a lot of good flavors, a lot of good stuff, man. So rockyourjava.com for the best of Fast Lane coffee. Give it a try, man. It's delicious.
Awesome. Now, John, this being the musician's coffee, when you get your first order, does it come with an 8-ball and a bottle of Jack?
It does. We load it all up. Anything that you want for it, anything that has to go with music or party, and we put it in the packaging. You get a little bit of everything, man.
Welcome, man. It's good to have you on again this week. Thanks for being a part of this. And check out rockyourjava.com for all your coffee needs. And we want to let's start with our sports vibe talk of the week for our starts and our sits. So we had our draft last week, and then everybody should have hopefully everybody has their drafts wrapped up by this week. But yeah, so what we're going to do, everybody, is we're going to go through. I'm going to give a start, a sit for each of the positions. Your quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, and John's going to do the same. So hopefully we don't have the same. But to get going, let's start with our quarterback. So I'll throw one, you throw one. We'll do our starts first, John. So my first start of this week, I'm going to go with the second year guy, Derek May for the Patriots. May, they actually gave him some weapons this year. He has Diggs, they have Henderson, they have Kyle Williams, and the best thing is they're playing the Raiders. So the Raiders last year, 25th in the league ranked defense, and I think May's a good start. I mean, you throw a guy in there like, he had almost 40 yards, for rushing attempts. If you're in a league that gets points for rushing, if he can get, put up 40 yards, 50, 60 yards a week, his last 11 starts, he was putting up almost 40 yards rushing. Right. I would have a solid start of Derek May being a top 12 quarterback this week.
Yeah, I like that too, Ralph. Drake May against the Raiders defense, with obviously Diggs going to be there. And I'm interested to see what Mike Vrabel is going to do with this team. We saw what he did with Tennessee. I mean, it was a rushing team. So I see, May going to he'll be using his legs a lot, but I think you're going to see a short passing game, a lot of rushing the ball. But I think you're going to see a more physical Patriots team than you saw over the last 2 years. I really like Mike Vrabel as a coach. I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out. But I think Drake's going to do well this week. Good pick.
And I'm kind of curious to see how the running back's going to pan out there too, with Ramondre and then with Henderson. With Stevenson and Henderson, but. I think by the end of the year, you're going to see a lot more receiving out of the backfield out of Henderson. And, we can talk about him more during the year, so keep an eye out on him. So who do you have for your start this week, John?
My start this week, it might not be a, one of those way down deep digs, but Baker Mayfield. I see Baker Mayfield against Atlanta this week. This guy is one of those, I don't even know how he's been kicked down so many times. But I think he's in a great fit right now with Tampa. We saw a lot of that last year. Mike Evans, obviously, is his go-to guy. But I think you're going to see development even a little bit more from, a little bit more action from K-Dot.
And I think we're going to be
talking. You got the rookie on your list. So I'm going to let you talk about that one.
I do. We're going to be talking about, it seems like Mayfield a lot here. So everybody, we're going to go through our starts. So speaking of Tampa, for my first wide receiver start of this week, I'm going to go with rookie Mbuka. The 19th overall pick, first round pick for Tampa Bay. Tampa has him right now, Mike Evans. You have a lot of guys. McMillan's hurt and out. Godwin's out. And let's face it, like the Falcons, they did allow the second most points to wide receivers, last year. So, I mean, I think this guy is going to eat. Evans is going to be double covered. So between Mbuka and maybe even Cade Otton might be a guy to look at this week. But for my receiver starter this week, I'm going with Mbuka.
I think it's a great pick. I think it's a great choice. I think he's shown a lot in camp and a lot in the preseason. This is going to be a guy that's going to develop well, with Baker. I mean, once they start getting that chemistry together, and and obviously the running game. This team has a very, very. I'm not going to say they'll sneak up on you, even with the injuries, but Tampa Bay's got a good offense. They got a good team there, so watch for Mbuka, man. I think he's going to be an excellent player in this league for a long period of time.
And like you said, a good running game. Bucky Irving, coming on last year. They still have Rashad White, right, who's no slouch. So it's a good team, and I like to see him. To be honest with you, I like Baker. I want to see him. I want to see him succeed in this league. Who do you have a receiver this week, John? Who's your start?
My start is T. Higgins. I know he's not, again, not one of those guys that's like a deep sleeper. But, look at what happened last year, in this offense. You saw, the injuries, came up and bit him hard. And Joe Burrow obviously is, one of the elite quarterbacks in this league. And I think going against Cleveland, T has something to come back for this year, something to, I think this team's hungry. And I think he's going to do very well against the Browns. I mean, I think he's an excellent start, even with Jamar Chase on the other side.
Yeah, and my thought of Burrow. I mean, I'm picking Burrow to throw 40 touchdowns this year. Chase gets double, triple teamed. Higgins is always open. He's a guy that's going to put you up some fantasy numbers, this week and, for the next, 16, 17 weeks going out this year.
Right.
Yeah, I like the Higgins pick there too, John. Running back. Why don't you throw out your first running back start of the week?
I'm pulling up my list right now, man. I want to set it up here. But my start of the week, for is the Giants, Tyrone Tracy. I like what he did last year. Young guy stepped in, played really some excellent football. Showed a lot of speed, a lot of heart. He was a guy that, we didn't expect. I mean, he came out, he probably won you a lot of fantasy leagues out there, guys. But I like what's going to happen here, man. I think that, the Giants obviously coming back. The team struggled a lot last year. You got Russell Wilson, a quarterback now. There's a lot of question marks. So I think they're going to see a lot of, the running game, and I think Tyrone's going to pick it up. But I also think that you're going to see a lot of checkdowns, for your fantasy guys out there. So Tyrone Tracy is my pick for this week for start of the week.
Nice. I like that pick. There might be like a couple touches thrown in there for your boy Scatterbro.
Scatterbrain. Yeah, remember we said that last week. You don't want to mess up the name. No, Scatterbro, man, good player. Man.
But I like the Tracy pick. I'm gonna since my receiver was a rookie pick this week, but my running back starter this week is Amari Hampton. I do know, yes, Harris came back. What kind of a shape is he in? How many touches is he going to get? And let's face it. I mean, what's the peripheral vision going to be like? What's he going to be able to see? But I like Hampton. I think he's going to get a majority of the touches. And then the only bad part is you might want to say KC's defense was pretty good. But if you look at KC, the way they broke down over the playoffs and then the postseason, I mean, they struggled against the run. I like Hampton. He's a bruiser. He can catch the ball. I think he's a good start. I like the Chargers with Hampton this week, even with Harris coming back.
I think so too, and we all know that Harbaugh loves to run the football. So
he's going to pound it.
He's going to pound it. You know, and he has two guys here, you know, that could do it. You know, with a young guy too. I mean, you're going to see, you know, you want to see him, you know, give him some, you know, some opportunities here. I don't think you're going to see this guy, you know, sit on the bench. You know, we all know about that here in Pittsburgh, how that happens. But
well, we already hear it. You know, Warren's going to start, and you know, Caleb's he's the third down, and it's, you know, they signed Warren for another 2 years, and you know, it's the Tomlin thing, man. He hates playing his rookies, and you know what? One of these days it's going to bite him, and I hope it's soon. But you know, we're not here to bash Tomlin, right?
That's right.
So we're here to talk
that off the air.
Constantly off the air. Tight end, my tight end start of the week is David Njoku. It's not too often you're going to hear somebody throwing out a guy in Cleveland that's going to be the start of the week. But you look at Njoku last year, and I just have some things written down. His 2 games with the Bengals last year, John. His first game, 8 catches for 66 yards on 10 targets. Okay. The next game, 10 catches for 76 yards in 10 targets and a touchdown. You know, so
that's nice.
With Flacco there, I mean, I know they got Tillman. They're going to throw to. They got Judy. I think it's going to be a safety blanket for him, and he excelled, you know, in the passing game there last year, especially against the Bengals.
Right. It's a good pick, bro.
I got to go with Njoku this week. He's my tight end solid start this week. So,
you know, if you really look at that guy too, I mean, he's one of those guys that flies under the radar every year. You know, you think that's going to be that year where he breaks out, but he's always kind of like middle of the pack, but he's steady. You know, and a guy like Joe Flacco, you know, he's going to be looking for him. You know, he knows that, you know, that tight end is you know, 9 chances out of 10, it's a huge mismatch for the defense. You know, I like you know, I like this as a start. I really do. I think that's a good start for this week, and a good not so much even you could say it's a sleeper pick as well.
Yep, I agree. Who do you got, Joe?
My tight end. Let's get this out. You know, you got him. I got him on my team. You know, I picked him up in the draft this year, but I got Hunter Henry. You know, we were talking earlier about Drake May and you know, these young quarterbacks. We all know that they need to have that safety valve. You know, whether it be a running back, but a lot of times, you know, that tight end, they establish that rapport, especially down in the red zone. I think Hunter Henry is one of those guys that, you know, that really plays well in games like this. I mean, you know, starting out, you know, it's a first week. You know, I think he's going to see a lot of targets, you know, from Drake. I think it's going to be, you know, part of that Vrabel offense again. You know, we're going to look at that running game, and we're going to look at that, you know, short passing game. But you know, it's important that this team scores points out of the gate too. So I think that's one of the keys there. Or Hunter Henry this week.
Good pick, John. Hey, before we go to our sits this week, why don't you tell us again about our sponsor?
Our sponsor? Hey, wait a minute. I think I know a little bit about this. This is Fast Lane Coffee. This is the brand that rocks you in the fast lane. This is the brand that I've been putting together for a long time. I mean, it's been ever since you know, 2013 when I established Rockin the Fast Lane. And it came through for Talking to Fast Lane, the podcast, but now the Fast Lane Coffee and the guitar influenced branding. You're going to get 8 different flavors, 8 special flavors, all with different guitar designs on it, all to accentuate the musician in you, but all delicious flavors. You know, I back this with my name, Fast Lane Coffee, rockyourjava.com.
Awesome. And I know well about Talking to Fast Lane. We had a few interviews back, you know, a few times.
Right.
But yeah, so everybody pick up your coffee, you know, from John. And next we're going to keep rolling. So we're going to start talking about our sits, players that we feel are not going to produce this week. You know, a player, if you roll them out there, and I don't want to call them duds because let's face it, if you're playing in the NFL, nobody's a dud.
That's right.
But why don't you give your first quarterback sit for this week, John?
My sit this week is Sam Darnold. Going up against the Niners, which is a tough defense. I think this guy's he has a lot to to work in with this new setup. I mean, you're looking at Smith and Jigba's obviously is his go-to guy, or will be his go-to guy, we think. Cooper Kupp coming back. It's I think that there's kind of like a wait and see here. What Sam Darnold are we going to see this year? Are we going to see the one that excelled in Minnesota and lit it up, or are we going to see the Sam Darnold of old with the Jets? We don't know. I mean, I think I'd play it safe this week if I'm a Darnold owner, and I'd sit him for this week until we start to see a little bit more.
I agree. I'd like to see a little bit more too out of him before we figure out. One guy though in that offense is their third receiver. I'm kind of hyped on, and I'm kind of see what he can do is that Torrey Holton. But it's a Horton. I'm sorry. So Holton. Yeah, it's a different kind of Holt, but yeah, Torrey Horton. We'll see what happens. My sit, John. I'm sitting Jordan Love. Jordan Love coming off. He's been cleared. He has a thumb injury. I don't know what's going on, and I don't think anybody really does. With their receivers. You got Reed that's had the Liz Frank, the foot injury. They're saying he's still having problems with it. He's back running, but he was just in the boot a week ago. You have Christian Watson, who's laid up again for the third year in a row. And I have him. I have him in a one fantasy league. I don't know what to do with him. With the no receivers, I mean, it's going to be a running game there. I mean, Detroit's no slouch either. So I'm going to have to sit Love. If I had him, I'd have to sit him.
And I think if you look at this game too, Ralph, they're going to have to score points. I mean, what kind of, that Lions defense, now you got Hutchinson coming back. So Love's going to see a lot more pressure here. I think you're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs out of the backfield. And really, this would be a tough game to be a Green Bay Packers fan on. I'm with you on this. I think that's until these guys get healthy, until he establishes that consistency with this receiving core, I think and Jordan Love's a good quarterback.
He is. I can't take anything from them. But John, one stat I just wanted to mention to you: he was held to 28 fantasy points in 2 starts last year against Green Bay. So I mean, you're looking to get more than 14 points a week out of your quarterback, and right. I'm just having to sit Love this week for that.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
So who do you have for your receiver sit, John?
Oh, my receiver sit. This is an easy one because of the mega inconsistencies in this offense, and that is Chris Olave. That Saints offense, what are we going to see? I mean, we don't even, we're really, looking at a crapshoot here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, other than Alvin Kamara, what guy stands out? I mean, Olave obviously is their guy, but I think if you're an Olave owner, I think it's a sure sit until we really see what's really going to happen here.
Are you comfortable with Spencer Rattler throwing him the ball too?
That's the thing.
I think that's a good solid sit, and I do like Olave.
Me too.
But I would agree that I would probably bench him if you had it. Now I get it if he's your third or fourth receiver and you play 3 receivers, you don't have any other option. You play him. But if he's your first or second guy,
that's right.
I look for another option. So my sit this week hits home for you Stiller fans. I'm sitting DK Metcalf. Yes, he's going to see a lot of targets. He's the top go-to guy for Rodgers, but they've had him going against Sauce Gardner. I think it's going to be a big shutdown on DK this week. I mean, he's still going to see these targets, 8, 10 targets. And we all know DK is not the best route runner, but I just can't see him eating on Sauce.
I can't.
That would be my sit for this week. Sorry, Steeler fans, and sorry, DK. I love you, brother. I have you on my team, but I'm benching you this week.
It's a tough one, and I could see that too, Ralph. I mean, you obviously saw us coming to play, man. He's a guy you don't want to go against. I mean, if it's I'm looking at maybe 5 catches for 50 yards, maybe 5 for 60. I don't see this being a shootout or anything like that. I mean, obviously the Jets, and you got 2 quarterbacks that are question marks. Obviously, I see Justin Fields running a lot. I don't.
Yeah, I don't see this being a high scoring game either, John. So
very low scoring.
Like I said, sorry, DK, got to sit you.
Making the Steeler fans unhappy, man.
We sure are. Do you want to throw your running back, or do you want me to go?
I'll let you go with your running back.
All right. So staying with the same game, staying with the Steelers and the Jets, my sit this week is Breece Hall. You look at the Steelers defense, they were 4th in defense last year, 9th in points allowed. Plus, you got Braylon Allen coming in. He's going to be stealing some touches, from Breece Hall. Breece was hurt last year, struggled a little bit, but against the Steelers defense, the one thing with the Steelers I do like is I still do like their D. And Breece running against the Steelers, like you said, it's going to be a low scoring game. I just have to sit him.
And it's a good choice too, because that this Steeler defense obviously is very familiar with Justin Fields. His tendencies, what this guy's going to do. He's probably going to take off and run the ball an awful lot. I don't see much pocket passing or anything like that. I could see the Steelers are obviously going to key on a run. They're going to make Justin beat him, and it's an excellent choice. I can't. Breece is obviously going to get his touches,
right?
But I'm going to say you need to curb, what you think you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, this week I had a couple options too. I thought about sitting Garrett Wilson, against the Steelers too.
Right.
It was an easy the home game. They had a few sits for me that I was able to pick from. So who are you throwing out there, John, for your running back?
My running back is obviously Javonte Williams or any Dallas running back. I mean, you see no consistency here. We don't know what they're looking at. Obviously, a big time committee. You're looking at retreads.
Sanders. Well, there is Jaden Blue is still sitting there, but I think
right.
He might be more the receiving guy out of the backfield for now. By the end of the year, if Blue does show something, you might start to see him, vulture more and more touches from Javonte Williams. But I think that's a good choice of a sit there for any of your Dallas, running backs. And let's face it, the
Great.
Eagles defense, they're no slouches either. And it's going to be nice that the first game of the week there is tomorrow, John. So we'll get to see the good old Cowboys and the Eagles.
It's going to be a good game. I mean, I think, Dallas, obviously, excellent passing game. But that Eagles defense is stout. And I think with the Dallas running game, I think you're going to see them, obviously you have to run the football at least a little bit to keep the defense in check. But, with that game, I would, until we see somebody step up and say that's going to be the guy, then I would say, then it's worth a shot. But I think that's going to be, 3 or 4 weeks into the season before we start to see any consistency there.
I agree. So my tight end sit of the week, and like I said, I went with a lot of rookies this week. I'm going with Colston Loveland, against the Vikings. The Chicago offense, with Williams, we really don't know. We don't know what Williams we're going to see this year. He looked halfway decent in the preseason. But what are we going to see? Who's going to throw to? Plus, there's so many options there. You got Moore, you got Odunze, plus, one other stat, Vikings, they only allowed 3 touchdowns all last year to tight ends. So I don't see him putting up, big numbers. Plus, I don't know how that's going to fall out with, Cole Kmet. So I think my sit this week is, for all you dynasty leagues and you guys needed a tight end and, you had Colston Loveland, I'd probably have to sit him this week. And, maybe you look at your second tight end to plug in there like a Zach Ertz or, somebody like that you might have, sitting on your bench that's not your regular starter.
Until you start seeing some of that chemistry, like you said, the chemistry is already there. Williams and Kmet, and like you said, Dunze, Moore, those guys are going to see a lot of touches. I mean, this is a team that has, let's say, good sleeper weapons.
Yeah. Plus, I think you're going to see some touches out of the backfield from Swift.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of mouths to feed, and I just don't know if Williams is ready to dish that all out yet coming into the second year. But we will see. I think Williams does take a step up this year, but I think it's going to be slow. But
I think
so who do you got, John?
Another thing we're looking at is Ben Johnson. I mean, how he like to use multiple players. I mean, he's going to use all of his weapons. You're going to see a little bit of everything. So when is Loveland going to be stepping in? We don't know.
Well, you see what Johnson did in Detroit too. The multiple running backs. He had Gibbs and Montgomery, and I love Ben Johnson. I really do. And if anybody can turn this team around, I think it's him. He's an offensive genius. I love the guy. So I mean, I hope it works for Williams. I like Williams coming out, but. So I guess we've seen something flash across the screen, and we already know who your. It was a spoiler. We already know who your tight end sit is going to be, huh?
Oh, he knows now. Dalton Kincaid. I think the one thing about Kincaid is, I like Kincaid, but I think that with that Buffalo offense, especially against the Ravens, I mean, I think, good defense, good solid defense. Josh Allen is obvious. I mean, that's my guy at quarterback in this league. I liked him coming up, and but it's he's one of those guys that likes to use his legs a lot. This is a revenge game too, and I think Baltimore's coming to play. I think this is going to be one of those deals where it's going to be tight. I think you're going to see a lot of the quarterbacks. I mean, obviously these two guys carry these teams, but I see Kincaid. Not being the main guy in this one. That's why I think I sit him for this week.
Well, you've seen last year what happened. He lost a lot of touches even when Knox came back.
Right.
So I agree that's probably a good sit. Anybody that's out there watching, again, if you have you have no idea who you want to start, you have these first week questions. You're new to fantasy. If you want to type us in some questions, you want to reach out to us, we're always welcome to field your questions and calls. And then again, this week sponsored by John's Coffee. The Fast Lane Coffee. Make sure you reach out. Pick some of that up. Anything else you want to reach out, John? While we have another minute here, we got one last minute before we close up shop. So. We got games. We got a Friday game. We got the Chiefs and Chargers Friday night. Tomorrow night we got the Eagles and Cowboys. Then we got the whole the whole Sunday filled with the rest of football. Man, it's a good time of year. It's a happy time of year. It's like Christmas.
It's a beautiful thing, man. That's all I got to say.
It really is.
It is. It's Christmas in September. Anytime the NFL hits. It's been like that since I was 5 years old, man. So smiles all the way, and I know you feel the same way.
I do. The sad part, John, is I won't see much football this weekend because I'm moving, which is really it really stinks. But I'm looking forward to the new house, and just so you know, man, you're gonna have to come on over. We'll have JT from Sports 5 over. I got just purchased the new 86-inch TV for the game room. So, nice. Yeah, I'm waiting for the players to be heads as big as mine while I'm watching the football game. So
that's the way it should be, man.
We'll throw down some beers. We'll get to watch some football here coming up in the next few weeks. So, but John, again, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure. It's always to have our gridiron guru on here, John, and I'm looking forward to the Fast Lane Coffee. Sportsbible.com. Make sure you check that out. And we'll be here next week. Hit us up.